20 judges,
2 days,
13 categories,
39 cars.
and 15 various tests.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2025 Cars.co.za Awards. Hello and welcome back to the Cars.co.za YouTube channel. I'm Ciro De Siena and behind me is a Cars.co.za Awards category. Yes, this is the best budget car category in the 2025 Cars.co.za Awards, and I'm going to be testing them back to back to give you my personal opinion on which is the best car. Now, let me introduce you to the cars standing behind me, and I'm going to use the incredible features of the Cars.co.za app, which you should immediately download from your app store because it's brilliant and I like it a lot, and you will like it as well. Okay, the Suzuki Swift. Let's start with that. This is the 1.2 GLX manual. It is the highest spec manual that you can buy. So that means it has all the gizmos that Suzuki can throw at you, and it comes in at 264,000 Rand, which is very good value right off the bat. So the Suzuki is off to a very good start. Here we go. This is the brand new Hyundai Exter. It comes in at 289. This is the manual executive model, which is the more expensive manual. That comes in at 289,000. So not too far off the Suzuki, and it is a bit more crossovery, where the Suzuki is more of a compact hatch. So quite appealing, the Exter. And then over here, we have another brand new entrance to the South African market. This is a Mahindra algebra question from your matric exam. This is the Mahindra, let me get this right, XUV 3XO 1.2T AX7L. All the letters and all the numbers. It's like a custom license plate or something like that. Now, I should point out that the AX7L is the most expensive Mahindra 3XO that you can buy at 404,000 Rand. So it is a lot more expensive than those two cars. However, you can get a 3XO if you go for the lowest spec one with a manual gearbox for 254,000 Rand, which would make it the cheapest car here. Now, I'm gonna have to keep that in mind when I'm testing these cars, because I don't want this to have an unfair advantage. So we are here at Gerotek in Gauteng. We are at a very high altitude, which will disadvantage the naturally aspirated engines. This, however, is a turbo, so it will be a lot more powerful and a lot quicker than these two. However, these two should be better on fuel. I'm going to take them on a couple of the awesome facilities we have here at Gerotek, drive them back to back, and as I said earlier, I'll give you my personal opinion on which is the best car. To find out which car wins the category, however, you'll have to wait for the Cars.co.za Awards Gala evening at the end of February. Right, that's enough talking, Sean. Let's go drive some cars. Right, let's go for a drive in the brand new Suzuki Swift. And I'll start by telling you the power figures, which I imagine for most of you is not particularly interesting because you're probably not a complete car nerd like I am. So 61 kilowatts, 112 Newton meters. Actually, no, that could be wrong. But hang on, I've made some notes in my Cars.co.za diary using my Cars.co.za pen, and I'm on a closed road in a safe environment, so it's fine if I read while I'm doing this. Okay, Suzuki Swift, 60 kilowatts and 112 Newton meters. There we go, from a 1.2 liter naturally aspirated engine. And what that means in non-car nerd terms is that the car is going to struggle up here on the reef. So with just me in the car, well, me and Sean, it's fine, it's doing okay. But if you're fully loaded, you're going up a hill, you're going to notice that lack of torque. So that is something to note. In terms of the NVH levels, another car nerd term, stands for noise, vibration, and harshness. I've always been quite impressed by the Swift, actually. it's the ride quality is good. It deals with road imperfections really nicely. The engine's pretty quiet. There's not much wind noise or road noise coming through into the cabin. It's actually quite a, I wouldn't say premium, but it's a good notch above some of the other cars in this category in terms of the sort of quality of the experience in the cabin. So let's talk about the driving experience in terms of the technology and the creature comforts that you get in the Swift from the driver's seat, which is where you'll have your driving experience most likely. So the steering wheel hasn't changed. Same steering wheel as last time, but I quite like it. Bit of pleather up here, some piano black, very nice. And it's got lots of buttons. So you've got cruise control buttons over here. You've got volume over there, your radio controls. You've got, oh, I'm making this difficult for myself. You've got all, your phone controls over here, which is quite nice. Very functional steering wheel. And then a nice feature of this GLX model is automatic lights. That's pretty cool that they've included that, but you don't get automatic wipers. You've got parking assist at the rear, which is quite nice. It's got auto stop start. You've got keyless engine start, so you can keep the key in your pocket if you like, and you press the little button and the engine starts. The whole dash has been redesigned for this model, and the screen is a lot bigger, but you get a smaller screen in the lower models. So the GLX gets this big screen, which has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You get automatic air conditioning, one USB port down here and one 12 volt. It's an old-fashioned USB port, not one of the Type C's, something to keep in mind. Two drink holders here, one over there, and I think that's about a tour of the interior. Oh, they've completely changed the instrument cluster. It looks really nice. And it's got a new TFT screen in the middle, which you can change and move around and see different settings and different information, that sort of thing. Oh no, I lost my straw. Right, we are on the dynamic handling track of Gerotek. This is where we can go a little bit fast and see how the car handles. Apex the corner, shift at 5,000. Oh, how is that shift? Lightning fast. No one's probably ever driven a Swift like this before. Look, it's a happy little engine, you know, it revs quite nicely. It doesn't sound too strained. Sometimes these little NA engines can sound pretty strained when they get to the high revs. Foot flat, you can feel there's not much torque there. 5,000 RPM, 6,000. Yeah, that's good. Sometimes small little engines can, when you rev them to the limiter, they can sound rattly, whereas this feels composed, it sounds composed, it's not an intrusive sound coming into the cabin. So that's actually very impressive. That's very refined. The biggest change here is that it's gone from a 4-cylinder 1.2 litre NA motor to a 3-cylinder 1.2 litre NA motor. Now, a 3-cylinder motor is inherently unbalanced. You can imagine 4 pistons, they kind of move nice and smoothly. 3 pistons can tend to sort of wobble. And impressively for a 3-cylinder, it doesn't sound like it's straining in the high revs. So Suzuki's done a good job. There's probably a little bit of extra sound deadening material in here as well, just to help you not hear the engine. Take a little corner here. Yeah, nice and grippy. What I'm quite impressed with the Swift is it has stability control, ABS and EBD, which is electronic brake force distribution, which helps you brake in a straight line. Stability control is very good in the wet. It helps you keep the car under control or in a high speed swerve maneuver. 6 airbags as well. So good little car, this safe little car. I think the previous generation only had 2, so that's a big step up. Now, one of the amazing things about Gerotek is there's just so many brilliant ways to test cars, and they have a series of suspension tests. There's Belgian paving, which is cobblestones. Then there is this really bumpy thing, which is kind of like hitting a lot of potholes. And then there is ribbed concrete, which sort of really vibrates the car. So you can't do it for too long. It's actually quite bad for the car. But it really allows you to test the ride quality and the noise, vibration, and harshness of the car. So what I'm going to do for this scene is put my Cars.co.za cap on. There we go. Now I look more professional. Okay, let's see what it does. Here goes the Belgian cobble paving things. Wow, that's good. It's handling that really, really well. So if you have Belgian paving in your suburb, you know you'll be fine in your Swift. Okay, let's go through the potholey bit. Oh, shite, the light fell. I'll hold it, it's fine. It's really very impressive, actually. Wow, this is actually really good. Okay, here comes the ribbed concrete. Also good. Okay, I would rate the suspension there probably like an 8 out of 10. Very impressive, actually. So my overall impressions of the Swift: great car to drive every day. I mean, if you sit in traffic a lot, get the auto, but the manual is actually quite fun. In fact, I would call this a fun car to drive. I mean, slow and there's not much power, but corners nicely, handles nicely. It feels like it's quite light on its feet. It sort of puts a smile on your face, you know, which is nice for a budget hatch. Keep in mind, if you go for an auto, it's now a CVT. There's so many acronyms in this film. I'm sorry if I'm boring you to death. CVT stands for continuously variable transmission. It means basically doesn't have any gears. It's got 2 cones and a belt. And it's not my favorite gearbox. It can tend to drone, but if you drive gently and you're not in a hurry, you won't really notice that it's not a proper auto box. These little Suzukis are super, super efficient. So they claim 4.4 liters to the 100, which is the best claim of the 3 cars. However, it's currently averaging 7.9, but that's not a fair representation of the fuel, because this car's been through 2 days of judging with 20 judges all over Gerotek, and you know, they drove enthusiastically. So obviously it was going to use a little bit more fuel. But the claim's 4.4, and I reckon you drive gently on the open road, you'll get in the 5s, no problem. Welcome to the inside of the Hyundai Exter. I never know how to pronounce Hyundai. I've always said Hyundai, I'm just going to stick with it. So, first difference between this and the Suzuki is that you get a key, which you actually have to use. You have to insert it into the place where the key goes. Ignition, that's the word. And then foot on the clutch and over she goes. So no keyless entry, no engine stop start button in the Hyundai. Now the first thing I noticed when I jumped from the Swift into the Hyundai is that the Swift seats are remarkably more comfortable than the Hyundai seats. These are very firm, they're not very supportive. I kind of feel like I'm sitting on a park bench. So under the bonnet, creating forward motion, is a engine which is 1.2 liters in displacement, but it has 4 cylinders as opposed to the Suzuki, which has 3. However, it has very similar power figures, which I will now read to you from my Cars.co.za diary, because I made notes earlier. And I'm on a closed road, so this isn't dangerous. I made notes with my Cars.co.za pen. See, I've made some notes here. There we go. All right. The Swift has 60 kilowatts and 112 of newtons meters, and this has 61 kilowatts and 114 of newtons meters, so pretty much absolutely nothing between them, and it will suffer the same power loss as the Swift up here at altitude because it doesn't have a turbo. So again, that just means that up hills, fully loaded, you're going to feel that lack of torque. 114, to put it into plain simple English, it's not a lot of torque, not a lot at all. However, the reason manufacturers do this is because it brings the fuel consumption down. Currently it's averaging 8.4, but again, that's because it's been through 2 days of some pretty hard judging. So we're on our way to the dynamic handling track, and the Exter is way more of a crossover than the Swift is. The Swift's a nice little hatch. It's lower, it's got a lower center of gravity. The Exter, I'm not expecting it to handle as well. But in this segment of the market, you're not looking for sporty handling, are you? You're looking more for ride comfort, ride quality, noise coming into the cabin, and the engine noise as well. So we're going to go test all of that now. Let's rev this little motor, 5,000 RPM. Now you see, you can hear that. I'm sure you can hear that on the microphones, how much more strained it sounds in the higher revs than the Suzuki did. It's little things like that which make a difference to the quality of your experience in a car. But look, again, this isn't a sports car. You're probably not going to be redlining your Hyundai Exter too often, so it's not really a problem. But even at lower revs, yeah, see 4,000, it's a noisier engine. There's less sound deadening in this car. So the noise, vibration, and harshness levels are a little bit higher than the Suzuki. However, the ride quality is pretty damn good, actually. Very smooth. I think they've got a good balance between comfort and stiffness, which is quite a tricky thing to do with suspension, to engineer for both those things. Corner's pretty tidy. Also has ABS and EBD and stability control. Also has 6 airbags. In fact, all of these cars have those features and have 6 airbags, so they're all nicely matched on safety. Ooh, yeah, it feels a little bit more like it's going to fall over. It won't, but it feels like it. Let's go through this corner at pace. The seats are not very supportive. Okay, I'm alive. Okay, I don't need to do that again. That was fun. Okay, off to the suspension track test thing area place. You know, it's the little things that you pick up when you test cars back to back. It's such a great way of reviewing cars, because when I turned on the aircon just now so I could cool myself and Sean down, listen how loud this is. It's so much louder than the Swifts. The Swift is like whisper quiet. Such interesting little details like that that you pick up when you do back-to-back testing. And again, it sort of, you know, affects the quality of your experience of the car. Okay, we're back to the suspension track. I'm not going to explain it again because I did that the first time, but I am going to put on my suspension testing hat. There we go. I'm ready now. Let's go. Belgian paving. Ooh. Yeah, there's a few more rattles coming from the boot area. It's definitely not as supple as the Swift. It's a bit firmer. I suppose maybe they had to firm up the suspension because the car is a bit top heavy. Okay, let's go to the potholes. Hey, that's pretty good. Yeah, you can hear it sort of clunking around. Nah, that's quite a bit noisier. And on to the ribbed concrete. Not bad. Yeah, not bad. Cope pretty well with that. I would say suspension 6.5 out of 10 on the Hyundai Exter. Not bad, but not great. Now, in terms of interior features, the Swift and the Hyundai Exter that I'm in now are very, very closely matched. So you get a leather-ish steering wheel. It's probably not real leather, but it looks good enough. You get cruise control buttons on the right. You get your audio control buttons on the left-hand side here and your phone button as well. It also has voice activation. So you press that little button over there. It's a fully digital instrument cluster, but not my favorite design. I must be honest, I prefer dials, and I prefer to see a rev counter sort of moving so I know where I am in the rev range. A bit weird to have revs as numbers, not my favorite thing. You do get automatic lights like you do in the Swift, but you don't get park distance control. That's quite a big one. And you don't get automatic climate control. You have to turn the knob yourself. Manual labor. You get one more USB port though, an old one and a new one, and a 12-volt socket. You get this weird lever with numbers on it, 2 drinks holders over here, a little bit of storage, just like the Suzuki. Oh no, I've kept my suspension testing hat on. Very unprofessional of me. Just like in the Suzuki, you get fold-in mirrors, electric adjustable mirrors, and electric windows all round. Let's see if it's automatic. Automatic down. Nope, not automatic up. The Swift goes automatic up as well. That's quite interesting. 2 places, or rather 1 place where both cars do not offer a feature which I really like and think is important, is reach adjustment on the steering wheel. So you can only adjust for rake, which is up and down. You can't adjust for reach. But in both cars, you do get a height adjustable seat. So what you do is just pump this lever over here on the right. Let's see how high we go. It's pretty high. There we go. And both the Swift and the Hyundai have that feature. Now what's different to the Swift is no matter which variant you buy across the price range of the Exter, you get the same size screen. It's not a bad size. I've got no problem with it. It's got Apple Auto, Auto Android, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. It's got both, you know what I mean, it's got both those things. And also what I like about it is it has a knob. The Swift didn't have a knob for the volume, this one has a knob. Very nice. So overall impression of the Exter. This is not a bad little car. It's a good little daily, good little run around. But even though it's a crossover, I don't feel like it's more spacious in here than it is in the Swift. The Swift's actually quite a big car. The dimensions between these 2 cars, not far off. Obviously this one's just taller, but in fact I think I've got a bit less elbow room in here actually than I did in the Swift. The interior is a little bit hit or miss for me. These seats, I don't like them. They're really firm and not supportive at all. The Suzuki almost has these like buckety sport seats, which are quite nice. The interior is a mix of okay plastics and not so great plastics, but there are nice touches like the blue trimming here on the stitching as well, over here on the vents. That's quite nice. So I think it's close, but having driven the 2 cars, I'm going to put the Swift slightly ahead of the Exter in terms of overall rating. Alrighty, into the Mahindra XUV 3XO AXL7, which is the wrong car for this comparison. So Mahindra did apologize. They were meant to send us the MX3, which is the bottom, well, second from bottom of the range, which costs 274,000 Rand. That makes it 10,000 Rand more expensive than the Swift, but it makes it about 15,000 Rand cheaper than the Hyundai, which is quite interesting. So what I'll do is I'll point out what you get in this expensive model for 400 grand, and I'll point out what you'll get in the MX3. So let's begin with the engine. You get the same engine across the range. So 1.2 liter turbo, and it has power figures of, let me refer to my notes in my Cars.co.za diary. Oh, I dropped my Cars.co.za pen into my lap. Okay. 82 kilowatts and 200 Newton meters, which absolutely blasts the other 2 into the weeds. And of course, because it's turbocharged, it won't suffer power loss, or not nearly as much power loss as the other 2 will up in Gauteng. So this will be much zippier, much more torque. If you're fully loaded, you are going to be very happy about that extra power and torque. It's also quite a lot faster than the other 2, if that is important to you. So let's get on to the dynamic handling track here and test handling and ride quality. It's quite a good surface. Foot planted. Yeah, that's not bad. That's a quiet engine. They've done a good job there of the sound deadening and doesn't sound strained at all. This is what's so great about testing cars back to back. Without a shadow of a doubt, I can tell you that the ride quality in this is better. The interior noise, the noise coming into the cabin is better. At low range though, the engine's a little noisy, but this is just a much better experience all round than the other two. It feels like a car from a segment above, actually. I mean, the only difference here between the one we should have been testing and this one is some features. So for instance, this has a nice panoramic roof, which you won't get in the cheaper model. This has keyless entry and an engine stop-start button, which you also won't get. However, you do get the same size screen, which is pretty impressive, 10.25 inches, also with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You won't get dual zone climate control and auto climate control like you do in this car, so you'll just get manual climate control. However, you still get cruise control, you still get the multi-function steering wheel, you get this nice leather steering wheel as well. You get electric windows all around like the other car. Let's see if that's auto down. Yes, it is. Let's go auto up. Yes, also auto up. The Hyundai doesn't do that. Let's test for rake and reach. What? No reach? Seriously? Why do none of these cars have reach? Is like reach an expensive thing to engineer or something like that? Let's see if it has a height adjustable seat. It does. There we go. Like the other two. That's good. Obviously, a key difference between this top spec and the M3X is that I'm in an auto in here, and in the M3X, I would be driving a manual. But that matches the other two as well, so that's not a problem. There's little things that unfortunately I can't answer for you. So for instance, this nice sort of leatherette on the door with the stitching, not sure if you'll get that in the lower end model. That's something I can't answer for you, unfortunately. However, you do get 6 airbags, ABS, EBD, and stability control in all the Mahindras. And you get 2 USB ports in here, an old one and a new one. And the new one is a fast charger, 65 watts. So that's really cool. That's going to give you a full battery really quickly. I like that. That's smart. More manufacturers must do that. That's a really cool function. That overall, my impression of the interior of this car, given that there are some unknowns because this is the top spec at over 400,000 Rand. However, I am very impressed. This is the best interior of the lot, definitely, by far. So kudos to Mahindra. At 274,000, if it's the same interior, then that is really good value. So the car just spoke to me about my low fuel. And I've experienced this in Mahindras before. It's the only brand where I've experienced the car talking to you like that. Sort of, I haven't asked it to talk to me like in a assistant kind of way. It's given me a warning. But apparently in India, they really like that. So that's why these cars have that sort of function. So this nice polite lady goes, "You're running low on fuel. Go get some petrol." Right, we have arrived at the suspension test, which means, of course, I need to put on my suspension testing hat with the Cars.co.za logo. Right, first up, Belgian paving. The aircon got better, eh?
Your vehicle is running.
Yes, I know. You told me that already. Yeah, that's good. It's really good over the cobbles. Yeah, it handled that brilliantly. Okay, on to the potholes. 30 k's an hour. Oh, it's not so good. I don't know if it's just because it's stiffer. There's no rattles, by the way. Those are just my sunglasses, but the car is not rattling at all. That's quite impressive. Not a squeak. Really, it's very quiet in here. Onto the ribs. Yeah, that's good. I'd rate it it's a mixed bag. Some places the Swift was better, in some places the Mahindra was better. So I'd probably, no, it's a bit better than the Swift. It's an 8.5, slightly better score than the Swift. Now, a feature you do not get in the other cars is drive modes. So there's a little button over here which says drive mode, and the 3 you can choose from, and I'm not making this up, are zip, zap, and zoom. And I have absolutely no idea what the difference is between those. I imagine zoom is the fastest because it's got a picture of a racetrack. Zip is the zippiest, perhaps. Zap, I don't know, you just go around and zap people. This could be fun, I suppose, if that's what you're into. Now, I'm pretty confident you won't get leather seats in the lower model, but you do in this model, but the seats will be the same shape and everything, and the same softness, that'll have the same foam. So, comfy, yeah, good seat, supportive, got nice side-to-side supports, the bottom's pretty comfortable. Yeah, I would say still the Swift seat's the best though. In order of ranking, it would be Swift, Mahindra, Exter in terms of seat comfort. And the Exter's like way behind. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't like those seats at all. Right, fuel consumption. It's all these numbers. It really helps to have a Cars.co.za notepad. The Exter claims 5.7, the Mahindra claims 5.3. And we are currently averaging 13.8 kilometers per liter. Okay, so that's the other way around, which means it's about 7 to the 100. Yeah, 8 to the 100. Somewhere around there, if my math is correct. Oh, I've still got my hat on. It's very unprofessional of me. Right, overall impressions of the Mahindra. I am really impressed. It feels like a premium product. It rides like a premium product. The interior is very premium. I mean, premium is maybe a bit of a vague word, but it feels good. It's impressive. The plastics are nice. The leather's nice. It's just got really nice touches, nice design elements everywhere. They've done a great job with this car. And I think one of the highlights of this car for me is the exterior. I think it looks amazing. It's such a cool looking car. It's modern. It looks fancy. It looks expensive. They've done an amazing job with the exterior. So now I have to go back to the other cars and try and decide a winner. What I'm going to do is jump from the back seat of the Mahindra to the Swift to the Exter, and then I'll give them all a rating on comfort and spec. So let's start in the Mahindra. It is the only car here with a rear USB port, which is pretty cool, and you will get that in the cheaper model. You've got 2 air vents over here for your passengers. Now keep in mind, you won't get leather, so it won't look as fancy as this, but it will all be the same size and the same shape. So you've got a proper third safety belt. You've got an armrest with drinks holders. You can of course adjust this so it's nice and safe for your head. You've got a reading light, and there's very good headroom back here. Overall comfort of the seats is good. Yeah, I could do a long distance in here. Yeah, good, impressive, well appointed back seat. Next. Stomach in, chest out. Can't breathe. Right, back seat of the Exter. Now, weirdly enough, this is more comfortable than the front seat. I don't know how they achieved that, but I'm not joking. I was actually more comfortable back here than I was in the driver's seat. Quite a quirky little thing is you get a pocket here, but you don't get one here. I can't understand that. You don't have a USB back here or a 12 volt, but you do get air vents, which is nice. Electric windows all round, drinks holders in the pocket. Very good headroom, lots of headroom back here. Proper 3-point safety belt, which is very cool. No armrest thingy, you don't get that. It's a solid rear bench, of course. Let's see if we can adjust these. Yep, that's good. And quite a nice little feature is the Mahindra also has this, but it's a little slot here for the seat belt, and what that does is it keeps the seat belt out of the way when you're folding the back bench down. So the Swift doesn't have that, but the Exter and the Mahindra do. Right, onto the Swift. And finally, the Swift. Now, immediately I can tell you this is the worst back seat of the lot. I am the most uncomfortable in this car. This bit's not long enough. This bit's too upright. It's cramped here. Headroom's okay. There's nothing back here. There's a drinks holder. There's no USB port. There's no 12 volts. There's no third safety. Oh no, there is a third safety belt. Sorry, there is a third safety belt. And that is it. That's all you get in the back of the Swift. Poor. This is the worst rear half of a car I've ever sat in. Maybe not, but it's bad. Right, so let me give you my ratings for these cars. 8 out of 10 for the Mahindra, 8 out of 10 for the Exter, 5 out of 10 for the Suzuki in terms of the back seat. Maybe even a 4. We'll give it a 5. Do you like my sippy cup? Right, the boots. I have commandeered this pram from somewhere and I'm going to use it to illustrate how big the boots are. Let's start with the Suzuki Swift, because on paper it's the smallest here at 260 liters, but to my eye it actually looks like the biggest boot here. So let's do the pram test. Yeah, no problems at all. And it's passed the pram test. Now you also do get a 60-40 split with the Suzuki Swift, which is quite nice on your back seats. And something to keep in mind though, is this is quite a big drop from the sill to the boot. So you have to lift stuff up and over. So if that bothers you a bit, it is quite deep on the Swift. Now let's move over to the Exter. Now on paper, they claim 295 liters of boot space. To me, it looks about the same as the Swift, maybe a little bit shallower, but let's do the pram test. Yeah, it's in, a little bit tighter than in the Swift. It's a little narrower in there, but it does pass the pram test, so that's good. Now, interesting to note with the Hyundai Exter is that the rear bench does not split. You have to fold down the whole thing, which is a bit impractical because then you can't carry a third passenger at the same time as folding down the bench. It also has quite a big drop from the sill to the boot floor. And then onto the Mahindra, which is interesting for a number of reasons. One is that it says, do not place heavy objects here, which is a sign that makes a lot of sense. I've never seen it before because it can damage your parcel shelf. Now on paper, this is the biggest boot, 365 liters. But to my eye, it's the smallest boot here by quite some margin. It's the shallowest by quite some margin. Then there are some design problems. So normally a parcel shelf will lift and sort of fold out the way, but this just doesn't do that. That's about as high as it gets and feels like it might break. And then there's also some trim issues, a little bit of rubber is coming off here. That's not great. That's not designed particularly well. Let's see if it passes the pram test. Oh, it's a little tight. No, it's in. It's a little tight. It's tighter than the Suzuki, but it does pass the pram test. You do get a 60-40 split with the Mahindra as well, so that's quite practical. A little bit of a drop off here, not as severe as the other two. Now you can't get an electric tailgate on any of these cars, but it's not that hard to close the boot yourself, is it? That was a really fun day of testing. I love testing cars back to back, and Gerotek's such a great place to test cars as well. Now, it's important for me to say that I'm about to give you my personal opinion on these cars. The winner will be decided by our 20 judges who have tested these cars over 2 days, as well as 50% of the score coming from a consumer satisfaction survey where we ask owners of these cars what their experience of their car and the after-sales service has been from each particular brand. So for the winner, you're going to have to wait till February, but I'm going to give you my opinion right now. The Suzuki, it is an improvement from the previous model. Not a huge improvement because the last model was great. There wasn't really more to go. I don't really like the styling. That's my personal opinion. The back seats are a no from me, but it is a very well-spec'd car for the price. It's the cheapest car here, and you get a lot for your money. It might have a little bit less appeal, however, than the other two. It almost feels a bit unfair because this is a hatchback and these are crossovers. The Mahindra. Wow. This is a surprise of the competition for me. I'm really impressed. I love the styling. The ride quality is excellent. The noise, vibration, and harshness is excellent. It's well spec'd as well. You get almost the same spec as the other cars, rear camera, all that sort of features and tech comforts as well. I know this is a more expensive version, but I can confidently say that the cheaper one will be just as good, but just with less features. You know, you won't get like a Harman Kardon sound system and that sort of thing. And lastly, onto the Exter, which actually looks quite small here compared to the Mahindra. But the Exter for me feels like the most budget car here. It feels like you're getting the least amount of stuff and quality for your money, which is a bit awkward because it's the most expensive car here. Yeah, it's my least favorite. So to wrap this up, long story short, Exter third place, second place the Swift. My winner is the Mahindra. That's my personal opinion on these three cars. To find out which car wins this category and the other 12 category in the 2025 Cars.co.za Consumer Awards, stay tuned to all of our platforms as we'll be deciding and announcing the winners over the next few months and then the event in February. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Ciro De Siena. This has been a threesome video. That came out wrong. I'm just going to stop talking now.
What's the car with Cars.co.za? This is Karen. Her name's not really Karen. You just know the hooter on her car is really well used. Beep! Now think of a car. Any car. Yes, we have it. Cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you.